Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our winter defense makeover. The power that, the power that made the body feel heals the body. Oh my goodness, let me start that over. The power that made the body heals the body. I wanted to realize that we may have lots of questions, or you may have lots of questions, and Dr. Justine has made herself available. You can text her at 647-987-9355. I wanted to welcome Dr. Justine and Dr. Udani with us here. So Dr. Justine is the owner and a leader here at Justine Blainey Wellness Center. She's a chiropractor, she's an author, she is an incredible leader in the community, and she just has such a wealth of energy and is very passionate. I also wanted to welcome Dr. Udani, who is our naturopathic doctor here at Justine Blainey Wellness Center, and she is very passionate about a number of different areas, including women's health and stress. And I think they have an immense amount of wealth of information and depth of knowledge behind them to share with us this evening. Please help me welcome Dr. Justine and Dr. Udani.
5 essentials in order to help you live a healthier life and to be the role model for the people that are around you. So where are we right now? I mean, it's a scary time. We're so worried about anytime someone sneezes, anytime someone coughs. Oh my goodness, people want to back up. Went for a run today, and people didn't want to like even go by each other still on the sidewalk. There's this fear, and then that causes stress and makes us more unhealthy and more at risk of getting sick. So today we want to talk about reducing this stress. It's not going to be focused just on COVID. That's not the only virus around. There's so many different viruses, so many different bacteria, and many of them are good for us. Many times when we have a little sneeze or a little cough or a little sore throat, that actually helps us get stronger in order to fight other viruses and bacteria. Not every fever is a bad thing. Sometimes that's a good thing. That's helping our bodies fight and make our bodies stronger. So today we're going to be talking about winter defense. This is about how to build our temple, how to be stronger in order to fight off all the boogeymans that are out there, and to focus on just being a better me, a better you, better for our families, more energy, and just healthier overall. Now, there's some challenges about what to trust. I mean, whether you look on the internet, you look right, you look left, you look up, you look down. Oh my goodness, it's hard to know what is true. I know when you look at the media, for me, I have lots of distrust because during my court case to play hockey with the boys, they said so many things that were so wrong, so not true. They did interviews with me when I wasn't even there. They quoted me things that I never said. And I lost a lot of friends over it. I had teachers that hated me when they didn't even know me and they didn't know the truth for sure. So there is so much challenge when you look at healthcare. Lots of times we just want to Google this symptom, Google that symptom, and we become our own doctors. And yet we can make many mistakes that way. So what I want to encourage is even the information we give today, always look it up, look all sides up, and do your due diligence, do your research. Make sure that no matter what we put in our bodies, we understand, is it good for us? Is it bad for us? And is this really the life that we want to live? Is this really the path? And that means doctors as well, including us, challenge us, ask questions, and make sure we do our research in order to be able to be as healthy as possible. Even when you look at the FDA, the CDC, this is a year of flip-flop on everything and contradictions everywhere. But it's not just about COVID. This is something that's happened for years, that there's contradictions. Just think of butter. Butter was better and margarine was the best, right? And then all of a sudden margarine is plastic and butter is better. That we needed to watch our saturated fats and eggs and shrimp, and that causes heart disease. And now we know that saturated fats can be healthy for you. So just understand that there's so much about healthcare that changes, you know, that there's constant change. And today our focus is to invite new conversations and to realize that this is time to open up conversations, to recognize all sides and find out what works best for you. Because really, when we look at healthcare, we need an individualized approach. And that's why we're here to help you. That's why we do complimentary consultations. That's why when you see Dr. Udani as a naturopath, she's going to be a customized diet, not something that you just got generic over the internet. And if we look at today's healthcare, we're in trouble. We are in trouble. We're not getting healthier. It's getting worse. And if you look at it, especially for children, I mean, this is scary stuff. 1 in 7 on antipsychotic drugs? Like, think about that. That means they're pretty sad. Like, things are going wrong. 1 in 7? That means one, two, maybe three in a classroom. Think about what that means for teachers and the kids that are around there and how to manage that. And how do they deal with that as becoming future parents? 1 in 6 with learning disabilities. You look at 1 in 12 with asthma. I used to have asthma, and I was able, with chiropractic care and acupuncture, to get rid of those sprays that I had on me at all times and the fear of not being able to catch my breath. We're looking at obesity on the rise, allergies on the rise. 1 in 13, like that's crazy. I used to be the only kid with crazy allergies growing up, and now it's almost like you hear for all kids that they are at risk, and more information about gluten intolerance and food intolerances, and that's why we do talks on that as well. Autism, they're now saying that when I graduated, it was 1 in 10,000 when I graduated as a doctor over 20 years ago. Right now, it's 1 in 20 boys and approximately 1 in 50 kids. That's crazy. When you think about it, that means we're going to have for teachers, for other kids in the classroom, that means that it's one in every classroom. So our goal here is not to discriminate against any of these different diseases, but to work towards building health, building understanding, and how maybe we can't perfect everything, but we can be better. So when we look about what's happening with right now in the stress that's going on, and with the COVID, with all the fear that we're hearing, just the negative news, the negative Nelly, the fear of all these different mandates, but not just that, just not seeing our families. Nervous, can we hug? Or how many people are coming over? Is our neighbor gonna get nervous on us? There's just all these different fears and stresses that's increasing the risks of suicide, increasing the risks of depression, actually even in many cases just getting angry, having less patience. We're seeing challenges within the families. I've had families now talking about divorce more than ever, more arguments, more tension, challenges to see kids if they are already divorced, or deciding we weren't going to have Thanksgiving with that family because they do whatever ABC. And so this anxiety and depression is going up, and we know that that increases our risk of just getting sick. I know that if I'm stressed, I sleep poorly. I know that if I'm stressed, I actually tend to eat more poorly. I know if I'm stressed, I get more tense and I can't perform at sport as well, or even just remember things as well because I'm more tense. So this is a time of job loss or income loss, or worrying about inflation, the gas prices. Like, this is a stressful time. And so with stress increases our risk of disease. So today we want to talk about some ways to manage stress when we talk about the 5 essentials. There's something called biopsychology, the study of your brain and the messages that transfers through the neurotransmitters to all parts of your body. And that affects our behavior, our thoughts, and our feelings. And then that affects our ability to fight off different viruses and different bacteria. It affects how our nervous system is going to function.
Mhm. Right. And, like Dr. Justine just mentioned, like the fact that there's so much stress, so much negativity, so much fear kind of like seems to kind of surround us all the time now. And that really does affect our stress levels. We're more stressed, we're more anxious, and when we're in that state, our bodies just isn't able to heal, it's not able to repair, it's not able to, rest properly. And that does really affect your immunity as well, because it lowers your immunity when we're going through so much of this negativity, this stress, and this anxiety. So having ways to manage those negative emotions is really important. And we're going to talk a lot about that, because that will help build up our defenses a lot come the winter time. And going with that, we are right now living in that generation of that fear and that stress. And we're so stressed out. We're thinking like, if I'm coughing in a store, are people going to judge me? Or will I be ostracized? Or will they look at me differently? And even for our kids, right? Like wearing masks in schools and kind of dealing with all of that with teachers and for parents. There's a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of stress and a lot of fear going on. And, right now, but we shouldn't let that make us, in my opinion, make us feel let us get down basically in our emotions. And we need to find ways that are proactive, where we build up our community of support around each other, and where we not, instead of living in a generation of fear, we manage that in a positive and in proactive ways, because it is possible. And this really goes down with the different paradigms of health, right? And this is where we say, have an open mind and always, question things and seek second opinions. Even what we're saying, we just want to open your mind to different ways of thinking about health itself as well, where instead of living in a time of fear, we can look into other options of other different ways of thinking, and being more open-minded about what else is out there that is a more proactive way to deal with what's going on right now. So, this whole time, there's the biggest paradigm that we've been talking about is the germ theory, right? This is where basically we say there's a specific germ that can cause a specific disease. So for example, if you think about E. coli can cause diarrhea or cholera, or the viruses can cause certain diseases. So this has been like the most prevalent theory of medicine and currently. And but this is not perfect. Nothing in medicine or nothing in healthcare is perfect. There is obviously con negatives to it, because if you imagine, if there is a germ that can cause a disease, then it will basically wipe everybody out, right? Nobody will be left alive if that were the case. And this is where another different way of thinking, a different paradigm can come into place, and that is the terrain theory. So this is actually, I believe this is like very proactive way of thinking, in my opinion, as well. And this has to do with your body's ability to fight off a certain illness or a disease. And if I always think about like a tree growing, so if a tree is growing in soil that's depleted of nutrients, it doesn't have enough sunlight, it's not going to grow as well compared to a tree that's growing in area that has a lot of sunlight, a lot of nutrients in the soil, right? So just like that, if we think about our body too, if we support our body, if we support our immune system with the correct lifestyle choices, with the correct diet, right nutrition, then our body itself, our immune system, has the ability to fight off these germs. And this can really depend on how much of the germs we're exposed to, how strong these germs are, and how strong our own immune system is. So this explains better why some people get sick while other people don't get sick as often, right? So if you think about even our elderly population, their terrain or their immune system is a little bit weaker, so they tend to get sicker more compared to someone that's a little bit healthier. They can ward off diseases and germs much better. So this is another way of thinking compared to just thinking, oh, I'm exposed to a germ and it's gonna just wipe me out. So we just want you to be open-minded about the different ways that disease can happen and how we can be proactive about it.
I just
So
want to add to that, Dr. Udani. If you go back to the other slide, Angela, we used to have a fish tank at the office. And the reason why I got rid of it is because I could never keep the fish alive. I still had, a person come in, and their job was to take care of the fish tank, to have the proper terrain. And they kept saying, they were experts at the fish and taking care of that, the fish tank. But no matter what, every, couple months or so, we'd have that fish floating and a kid would point at it. I mean, like, oh no, and I don't know if it's because people kept touching the fish tank that we had so many troubles, but it does matter because
Mhm.
the person who was expert in fish, he said he never had those problems at his store. He never had those problems at home, and only had those problems at our office that we kept buying fish and losing fish. So, the environment makes a
Mhm.
big difference. If you have more metal toxicity, then and you haven't done a detox, and you're going to have more challenges
Mhm.
with other medications, with other foods, with other food intolerances. So, unfortunately, our terrain can be poor and we may not even know it. Like the inside of our bodies, our blood work, could be because it's full of heavy metal toxicities, or many times we don't even realize we have parasites. We may not realize that we have overgrowth, like extra bacteria. We have good bacteria in the body, but it can overgrow and cause challenges. So it's so important not only to know your terrain but to have it checked. Like
Mhm.
even when you're feeling good, to see a naturopath and have that checked. Your terrain is part of your nervous system. We can't judge our health based on how we feel. We need to have the nervous system checked because problems in our terrain, our body, our temple can be building without knowledge.
Absolutely, Dr. Justine. I'm so happy you brought that up because I think of it like a bucket, like so all these like you said, the heavy metals, the parasites, the bugs are just building up, and over time it's gonna overflow, and you start to feel different symptoms, right? So you might feel normal now, but it's really important to get it checked to see where each of these things are at in your own self, because you and we're all different, we're all individual, unique people. So our terrain is going to be just as unique like that. So that's a really great example with the fish tank. I'm so sorry all those fish died.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're moving on. So that's what we want to focus on, our own terrain. How can we optimize? How can we have the best terrain? And that is, being proactive, staying proactive about checking what's going on, and really focusing on ourselves, right? And if we look at ourselves, after the nervous system, I think our immune system is the next biggest, especially when we're thinking about defense, right? And it's so complex. It's always working for us, 24/7. Even before you feel sick, it's working for you. So if you actually have a really good immune system, immune function, then you don't tend to get sick often. That's a good sign, especially if you're like everybody else is catching a flu, but I'm okay. So that's a really good sign for you to as well to know that, hey, my immune system is uh, working really well to keep me healthy and keep me safe. So this system is composed of lots of different cells, lots of different proteins, and they work like a family. They work together, they communicate together, and they are so as soon as you're exposed to, let's say, a flu virus, for example, the immune system has cells that read it like a barcode and starts to produce its own very unique proteins that basically can recognize the viral particle, which is called an antigen, and it produces our own antibodies that are specific to it. So it's really it's very specific. It's so efficient as well. And whenever this invader comes again, our body's ready for it because it has experienced it before. So our body's like, I read this barcode, I know it's you, I'm going to mount a immune response. So this is our natural immune response, and it's a very efficient, very amazing system. And this is why, if we're proactive about promoting our own immune response, then you usually have a very good outcomes with any kind of cases of diseases. So one of these ones is the innate immune system. Okay, so I like to think of these as like the two sisters. This is the first sister, she's the oldest, and so because of that, she is the most she's the first. Okay, she comes into all of the the bugs and the viruses and the bacteria first. So the first defense we do have is our physical barrier, right? So our skin, our mucus, the tears, the saliva. So all of these actually is a barrier for any kind of bugs to come in. And that's part of the innate immune system. The second one is, let's say somehow they go through and get through our skin like a cut or a scrape. Then right below that is the second barrier. So that is all the cells that produce inflammation. So think of this as like they're ringing bells. They're ringing like a fire alarm, saying, "Hey, something's going on. Let's focus on this. Let's focus on killing these invaders and keep Dr. Justine healthy," for example. Let's say. And then we have the younger sister. She's a little bit more flashy, and she's called adaptive immune system because she's very specific. She knows what she wants, and she goes for that. So this adaptive immune system is where our white blood cells come into play, our B lymphocytes, and what they do is they can read each invader. They can make their own barcode, and they'll produce its own antibodies. Okay, so this are the antibodies that will stay in your body for years at a time. So just in case you are exposed to this again, it knows, and it's like quick as that comes and kills this invader. So the adaptive immune system can actually, you can learn, it learns from the invaders. So you can get it from natural. So let's say you caught a cold, and now you have the antibodies for that virus or the bacteria that caused the cold. Or you can actually get it through an immunization. So for example, polio, when it was first eradicated, that was done through immunization, so that the immune system knew, okay, here is the barcode for polio. And if I ever get to see this again, I know exactly what to do. So that way you don't experience those symptoms like paralysis that polio children used to get back in the day. So these are the two that really gives you the natural immunity that you have. So usually natural immunity is you're exposed to something. So for example, I used to get exposed to so many bugs that would cause me food poisoning. So now I feel like I have a very, very high tolerance to eating different foods. Like I can eat, I mean, I would never recommend this to anybody, but I can eat like pretty undercooked fish, and I'm okay because I've gone through so many of that, so many experiences. Now that my immune system is so primed to just catch it, and it just like gets rid of it. Artificial immunity is where you don't necessarily have to be primed to it before, but you can get it through a vaccine. For example, what I mentioned with polio, you get the drops now, but this is, for example, the flu vaccine. So it primes your body in an artificial way to get ready just in case you're exposed to this before. So in both of these cases, you have antibodies. Okay, so the antibodies are our immune systems. Think of them like messengers that really knows exactly what to do. It tags on, they're very specific too, and gives you that immune response that you need. Now, there's also another one called passive immunity. So this is actually given to babies through breast milk from their mom, because when you're a little baby, you have very, very, your immune system's just not developed as proper as, as you or myself or Dr. Justine, right? So we're adults, we're exposed to it more, but babies, not necessarily. So for babies, they get a passive immunity through their mom's breast milk. But the thing is, it doesn't last long. So as they are growing, their immune system acquires new information, and it's like, all right, now I can build up my own immune system. So that is hopefully a pretty good summary of our immune system, what it does, the two different types of immune systems that we do have in the body, and how hard it works for us to keep us healthy, and how effective it can be if we really support it and are proactive about supporting it, and check in to see how our terrain is, how is it, how is our detoxification, and how are our amount of bugs that are in us. And this is where I really do a lot of testing as well to see your food intolerances, to see if you have overgrowth of certain bacteria, viruses, or parasites. So if you're ever curious about these tests, you can reach out to me. You can book a meet and greet with me, or just meet me in the clinic, and I'd love to explain it to you.
Definitely. And it is actually pretty cool what our bodies are fighting off all the time. Like tens and tens and tens of millions of bacteria and viruses out there. And a lot of it is good, in the air, on the ground, in the water, in the oceans, in our bodies. And so much of it is good, and so much of our body so strong to fight off so many already, which is very cool. Now, I know a lot of times people just Google whatever symptom it is, Google different products, and we have to realize that it's not always the best way, because many times it can be misleading. So if GMOs are definitely not healthy, and yet you can look at, if you just type in GMOs are, the first line is good, right? So we want to make sure that we're very cautious in what we search. We search many different ways, and then get specialists or different doctors' advice, different peer reviewed research, so that we make sure that we have a good spectrum of information to make a good decision. And you can just see some of the information here, again, about GMOs, something that we want to avoid, but we know that they're still there in our society. So we want to be able to make informed decisions. And this would be same if you were looking up information, example, about 5G, that you want to make sure when you're looking at your phone, and yes, I want it faster, but then is that better? Is that healthier? So these kinds of decisions do require research. One of the things that we believe is that our bodies are very cool. They're so awesome. That how we can move, how we can digest food, even things like if you eat something bad that you can throw up. That's a good thing. That's getting the junk out. If you drank too much alcohol coming up to the Christmas holidays, that your body will let you know the next day you may not feel so good, right? It's telling you to slow down to help your body detox that alcohol. You might find that you start sweating, and that's a healthy thing, because that's getting those toxins out there. Our bodies are super smart, and they adapt to stresses. Even if you thought of it as weightlifting, the more you weightlift, you adapt, the muscle gets stronger so that it can handle more. This even happens with stress. The more you had a little stress, you think of kids that when they're young, they have small quizzes, maybe spelling tests. And then, in grade school, they have tests that are about 10 minutes to 30 minutes long. And then in high school, they're an hour and a half long. You get to university and then professional college, the 3 hours long. You're building your ability to manage stress, and that stress muscle can grow as well as we can adapt. So, what we often say is that we want to get rid of the interference. We want to get rid of how our in things that interfere with that amazing intelligence in the body, so the body can function in the way that it was designed. And that goes back to the first thing that Angela said, that our bodies are intelligence, and the power that made the body can heal the body, the power that's inside of us that helps us think, move, digest, um, and function, is the same power that can help us fight off a cut, to fight off an addiction, help fight us poor foods, like or food sickness, an allergy, a fracture, and a bug. So this is what we believe, is that our bodies are amazing.
Mm.
Did you want to add anything to
Absolutely.
that?
Yes, I would love to add some too. I mean, I 100% believe in that. I think our bodies are so amazing. They're just they're like just fantastic the way they're created, the way it just helps eliminate toxins, the way it just innately knows exactly what to do, as long as we support it, right? We don't do obstacles to cure, or like we don't interfere with the way it works. And these days, we're there's a lot of interferences, like considering the diet we are faced with, the chronic stress we have, the lack of sleep, and lack of nutritious food that we eat. So these are all things that if we do focus more and give some energy and prioritize, all of us can be so much more healthier, and our bodies will just knows exactly what to do, how to regenerate. And yeah, I'm such a big believer.
I think it's sometimes having faith in that some of these symptoms are actually a good thing. So, for example, when my kids were younger, if they had a fever, it didn't bother me. I didn't stress. I didn't go trying to go to the drugstore to get a Tylenol or an Advil. In fact, I'd tell them to put some more clothes on and let them sweat it out. Might have once in a while a cool bath or a lukewarm bath, but I actually thought of the fever as a good thing. That was their body fighting off a bacteria or a virus, and give them time to tell their bodies to rest, and if I think about in when I was younger, if I drank alcohol, if I drank too much and my body threw up, that was actually a good thing. That was getting that toxin out of my body, and I learned that, I mean, I don't drink alcohol at all anymore, but I learned that, like, I do not function well with that. So I needed a new way. It was a way to learn what was a toxin to my body and what was not. So one of the things is just getting more faith in our body, faith in how powerful our bodies really are. And what we do teach is the five essentials in helping our bodies be stronger and be able to take care of itself. So again, we talk about maximizing your nervous system with chiropractic care. Osteopaths can help as well. Maximizing our nutrition, maximizing our oxygen and our exercise, maximizing our mindset to manage stress and minimize those toxins. So this faith is so important. I know during the pandemic we never closed down, and I knew my faith was that I was there to heal. I was there to help, and I was staying open no matter what. Even if they told me to shut the doors, there was no way I would shut the doors. I didn't care if we had no staff. There's no way that I wasn't here on this earth in order to help people. And my faith in that was greater than any challenge that was out there. And I was going to be there for those people who were suffering. And we ended up having patients from all sorts of different doctors' offices, because they had nowhere else to go. And I believe that faith in the power of what our mission is, what we were designed to do, and our faith in the healing potential as we are there to serve, truly can make a difference.
Absolutely. And I think, you were able to do it with, respecting all this guidelines and standards and keeping everything safe. And that just goes to show that where there's a will, there's a way. And having that faith really does matter. Yeah. And so, these days we're talking so much about viruses and, with COVID kind of taking over our lives in the past 2 years. I want to just kind of touch base with what exactly is a virus, and the more we understand about a virus, the more we can decide for ourselves, should we fear it, should we look into it more, get second opinions. And this is knowledge is power, right? So a virus is actually not a living thing, so it needs us as humans to survive. It uses our proteins, our energy sources to reproduce, and it kind of sometimes it stays in the body, and it loves to spread to other individuals. So our body does actually have our immune system does have a mechanism to kill viruses, and it's done through this cell called natural killer cells. So they're antiviral, and our immune system does produce antiviral peptides, but we have to have a strong immune system in order for this to be functioning. And with a proper lifestyle, proper diet, making sure your terrain is functioning really well, making sure we're checking, all the your nervous system, all the anything that could be overburdening our immune system is really important here, to make sure that you have a good, robust immune response against viruses. So when I talk about viruses, it's not just about COVID. It's about things like hepatitis virus, it could be flu virus. It could be multiple things that you might be coming into contact, later down the road. So our immune system does have mechanisms to keep these viruses at bay. We just have to support it and make sure that we don't have anything that's kind of staying in the way of it. So these are some of the built-in lines of defense that we do have. Like what I mentioned before, we have a super amazing physical barrier, our skin, our tears, our saliva, our mucus. And I'm going to use an analogy to explain all of these things for you a little bit better. So let's actually think about the flu virus. Okay. So the first line of defense first symptoms, let's say you get, is you might feel stuffy. You might feel like you're sneezing, you're tearing up a lot, you might be coughing tiny bit, but that's your body's first line of defense. It's trying to get rid of this, before it's coming into you. It's trying to stop it and getting it, stopping at the first line. Then let's say, okay, you had a really stressful day, you're going through a lot of stress and anxiety, and your immune system got a little bit weaker. So now the virus is actually a little bit inside. So then this is where you might notice a little bit of swelling or inflammation, a lot of mucus, a lot of phlegm coming up, because this is also trying to trap that virus before it's going deeper and deeper. Okay. Now, let's say, all right, you just wasn't able to beat this virus. So now it's going deeper. And the third line of defense is your adaptive and innate immune system. So these are the two sisters I mentioned. So they come in to your rescue, basically. So they start to have that fever going up, and this is why like Dr. Justine mentioned, fever is not necessarily a bad thing, because it is actually our body's way of increasing temperature, because our immune system does work better the higher our temperature is. Obviously, to a certain degree, certain points, you want to make sure you don't go over. You want to stay safe. But a fever and you getting that fatigue, those are signs that your immune system is putting up a good fight against whatever this bug might be. So these are the lines of defense. And sometimes you don't necessarily even get to this point because your immune function could be really good, and your terrain, your internal health is amazing, and you sometimes it's like doesn't get to this level. That doesn't necessarily mean you might not get it later, but it's just saying that there's so many of these defensive lines that the immune system has to make sure that you aren't getting really, really, really sick. So I love it because it's just very efficient, and there's just so many different lines for the body that does produce. And this all does matter. Your terrain does matter with this, making sure we're removing those obstacles, those interferences that could make you weaker. So things like eating unhealthy, things like stress, lack of physical activity, lack of sweating, not eating the right kind of diet, for example. So it's very important, and just to promote your immune system. So this is why, having that faith is a big, big, big part too, actually, because if you have the right mindset, right, the right positive mindset, and you don't let those negative emotions get the best of you, that really does set the tone to how your immune system will function, how you as a person will function as well.
So next one is just like Angela said at the beginning, the power that made the body heals the body. So there's the body that have all these different adaptive responses and this innate healing, even to have those killer cells and to create a cytokine storm. All of that is amazing power inside of our bodies. And as chiropractors, we want to work with that amazing power and that messages that come from your brain to all the different parts of your body to help you be your best. And so we say, one of the biggest things is getting rid of an interference, and that's including getting rid of subluxations, those misalignments in that the messages from your brain to the rest of your body. And as Dr. Udani will talk about, the misalignment or the poor messages from your brain to your gut, and your gut to the rest of your body.
Absolutely. So if you think about the gut, and this is something I see it so much in, at the clinic, is people coming and complaining of, indigestion, heartburn, constant constipation or chronic diarrhea. And all of these are actually really affecting the immune system, because 70% of our immune system is in the gut. Okay. So, and having good gut bacteria is so important, because good gut bacteria actually teaches our immune system how to have a proper immune function and reaction. And if you have too much of the bad bugs, there's a lot of inflammation going on, and that can cause your immune system to be overreactive or actually weakened. So that way, if it's overwhelmed with what's going on in the gut, it just doesn't have enough energy, enough power to figure out how we can support you if you have a cold or a flu. So sometimes I actually see patients that have multiple infections going on all at once, because of their bad indigestion and bad gut issues. So this is why it's so important to make sure you have a healthy, functioning digestive system. And actually, Dr. Justine, I want to mention that one of my patients did say that doing the adjustments really helped her digestion as well. Because
Yeah.
the if you think about the celiac plexus, as adjustments really helped her with her bloating and her gas and indigestion. So that shows how connected the nervous system is to the gut as well, and to the immune systems. They all work in a team, as a team. And we have to make sure that when it comes to gut, having that good gut bacteria is a huge priority. And this is where antibiotic use has been really bad, because I remember when I was little, my parents would give me antibiotics so much. Like, even if I had a little flu, they'd be like, okay, take this antibiotic. And I really wish I will never do it to my kids, because it was really messing up your good gut bacteria. Because if you think about an antibiotic, it's like a weed whacker. It's killing everything, good or bad. It's just like killing everything that's in the gut. So what it's doing is really, it's killing the good bacteria that we really do need. And when that happens, sometimes the bad bacteria that the antibiotic wasn't able to kill just starts to grow more. And there's so many cases of antibiotic resistance now that these antibiotics aren't even that effective anymore. So all you're really doing is you're killing the good bacteria and kind of prolonging things. So for example, I've had some patients who were on antibiotics for UTIs. So if you ever had a UTI, usually an antibiotic is prescribed. But what ends up happening down the road is then they start to complain of digestive issues, gluten sensitivities, or food intolerances. So these start to develop because the good bacteria was also, killed off. So now the gut has a lot of inflammation. And, there's a lot of misuse with antibiotics too. Sometimes people don't really finish a course, like you're supposed to do it for over 10 days, but sometimes if you feel like you're feeling better, you stop taking it. And so there's a lot of this that affects a lot of these bad effects of antibiotics that can kill the good bacteria. And now, don't get me wrong, if you do have a very a big infection, yes, you can use antibiotics, but we can support you to rebuild your gut, rebuild your good bacteria, and with specific probiotic strains, specific ways to help rebuild it. So if you are in this space, come talk to me. I'd love to give you some pointers about what you could do. And another huge thing, I think, I used to be so addicted to sugar. And I'm so happy that my sweet tooth is gone now, because more and more, the more research I do, the more I realize that sugar is the evil one. It was never fat. Fat was never the bad guy, you know. But the sugar has a huge effect on the immune system. And let me give you some facts. So daily we eat about three quarters of a pound of sugar and flour a day. So can you imagine that? That's a lot for the body. Our body was not set up to absorb all of that. It's overwhelmed, it's too excessive. And what sugar does is it's very inflammatory. And I'm sure, let's say you had a lot of sugar, like a lot of ice cream or candy or fast food, you don't feel good afterwards. You feel tired, you're lethargic. Obviously, your weight can increase too, and your immune system just goes downhill, because the sugar is actually feeding the bacteria, the bad bacteria in the gut as well, and it affects your immune system because it creates products called advanced glycation end products. So I call these AGEs, because it stands for age. So sugar can age you because of these products. And what these guys do is they can actually borrow through and cause the proteins that the immune system uses. It can cause kinks in that protein. So they're not functioning the way it should be. So basically, it's like if you have a car and you just like messed up the wiring in the car, for example. It's not going to work as well as it could have been. So this is how sugar can affect your immune system, because of this process called glycation. And it can be really harmful for a lot of other things too. It can actually increase signs of aging in the skin. It can cause DNA damage. It can cause issues with your eyes. Like, so if you have trouble with especially with diabetes, you get the problem with the eyes, difficulty with seeing. This is actually because of glycation issues too. So sugar is a big, big, big no-no. If you can cut it down, it is, I would say my recommendations is to do it slowly because it is very addictive as well. So starting with small habits, small steps is the way to go. And of course, with the more sugar, more calories we eat, we have a higher likelihood of gaining weight, especially the tummy weight is bad compared to rest of the body. Of course, weight in general is bad, but when you carry that weight in the stomach, that fat is actually very, very hormonally active. So it is also very inflammatory as well. So the more weight you do have, the more inflammation you have, and that just affects your immune system. It's just not able to function properly, and the higher the risk of all the comorbidities that you hear with COVID, making things worse. So things like obesity, if you have a heart condition, diabetes, high blood pressure, if you had these, you were more likely to experience worse outcomes of COVID and other issues because your immune system is weaker, you're under more stress, and there's more inflammation going on as well. So this is why we want to make sure your terrain, your body, your temple is as clean and as supported and as healthy as it can be, and we can support you with reducing your chances, reducing your likelihood of developing these conditions as well. And even if you have them already, there are ways to reverse these symptoms. And if you're proactive and we use natural therapies, and in conjunction with westernized like modern medication too, there's an integrative therapeutic way that you can get achieve the goals you want. And this is where one of the best ways you can build up your defenses. How do you build up your immune system? Is to have a diet and lifestyle changes. So having protein-rich foods, because a lot of our immune functions, the immune system, the antibodies, they are protein. They're made out of protein. So you want to make sure you get good source of protein into your diet. Grass-fed beef, free-range chicken, free-range eggs, and if you're vegetarian, making sure you have lots of lentils, lots of chickpeas and tofu, but non-GMO tofu. So all these kind of good protein sources help build up your defenses. Another one is having as much of your fruits and vegetables as possible, especially in the winter time. We don't really necessarily go for the fruits, but this is a huge, huge, huge thing. You got to increase your berries, your oranges, your apples, and all of those, as much color as possible, because there's so many good antioxidants in fruits and vegetables. And fermented food, especially for your gut. So fermented food acts like food for your good bacteria. So having some of that sauerkraut, some of the kimchi, or just any kind of pickled vegetables, things like that are fermented, is a great way to increase your good gut bacteria so that you're building up your defenses.
Thanks to you, Danny. Is so important, and one of the biggest things is we want convenience. We want the fast foods, whether it's Uber Eats or drive-throughs. We're always looking about what's fast and easy. And one of the challenges that is that the fat content, especially the trans fats, go up, and we're eating more and more, fat. 75 pounds of fat in a year for the average American, and I don't think any Canadians are doing it much better. And it's becoming almost 20% of our daily intake. And fat can be a good thing, but we want to make sure it's the good, healthy fats, not the ones that cause damage, like the trans fats or improper balance of the saturated versus unsaturated. And that's why you see the omega 369, the omega milk, and the yogurts, because more and more of us are recognizing the importance of those healthy fatty acids to boost your immune system, to help your overall health. So we want to get that from our grass-fed butters, our grass-fed fish and meats and poultries. We want to get it from our avocados, our seeds, our nuts, our almonds, our macadamia nuts, looking towards adding healthy fats and healthy proteins is what's going to help build our immune system. So those healthy proteins are the grass-fed, free range, wild fish, so that we're not getting what we ate. We want to make sure that the whatever it is eating good foods, not being all cooped up and just getting grains or GMO like foods. We want to make sure that the animals are able to run around and eat natural foods in order to grow and develop those muscles before we look towards eating them. And we know that if we have eggs, for example, and it's from grass fed free range, it has more vitamins in it. The egg might itself look a little smaller, but it's more nutritious for you. So when we look at the maximized living core plan, this is when you're doing great. You don't have any diseases, you don't have any weight to lose, you're not inflammatory, you're not in pain. This is when we add as many healthy fats like the avocados, the healthy fish, the nuts, the seeds. We have free range, full fat dairy, naturally raised animals, whole or sprouted grains, lots and lots, like Udani said, fruits and vegetables, lots of color on your plate. Um, and the plant-based carbohydrates. So this doesn't mean you're rushing out for the muffins or the donuts or the pastries or the breads. Now, if you're um, having challenges where you are having inflammation, you are having pain, you are looking at a fatty liver, you are looking at heart disease, diabetes, any of these comorbidities that we know that decrease your immune system, you are similar to the core plan, but the Max Living Advanced plan is different in the sense that you actually more radically reduce your sugars. And so you're getting rid of grains because grains still turn to a sugar. So that's all breads, potatoes, rice, pasta. You're not having any of those unless you're going to the shiitake pasta, like the vegetable pasta or mushroom pasta, but it's not a carbohydrate in the same way as, say, white pasta. And this means also like whole grained rice or wild rice. You're not having anything that's trying to turn to a sugar. And then instead of as many fruits as you want, you're looking towards low glycemic fruits like berries and green apples and low glycemic vegetables. So instead of the corns and the carrots, you're looking towards your green vegetables. And we know that if we have the advanced plan and the core plan, both of them, the healthy nutrition helps boost your immune system. But whatever you're doing, I recommend you get advice for your diet. Even when you're making a change, it's so much better to have a coach for you along the way. And that's the same when you look at different vitamins that you have. And I recommend talking to a naturopath because I've seen people have tons of vitamins and it's almost too much and they're overspending on their vitamins. And then I've also seen people have lots of vitamins, but it's poor quality. So it's really just ending up in the toilet. They're not actually absorbing any of it, or it can have more filler, actually making them more unhealthy. So on our household, on my kitchen counter, you will see we have a multivitamin, vitamin D, vitamin B. We have our essential oils, we have vitamin C, we have um, a zinc in order to be able to help us better. So but when you're looking at, adding vitamin A, vitamin B, C, D, E, like it can be a little overwhelming on what's specific for you. So highly recommend talking to Dr. Udani, having a coach to create the best vitamins for yourself. I do recommend vitamin D. It is on my kitchen counter. We do sell it at the office. You do get it from the sun, but personally, I'm not in the sun enough, and I'm certainly not at this time of the day. Even though it was some beautiful weather, uh, and lots of sun. I'm not in a bathing suit, coming to the winter, so I'm not getting enough vitamin D from the sun. And I do believe every one of us should be looking towards forms of supplementation, but to determine how much supplementation you need to have your blood work checked, and that can be done with Dr. Udani, and or doing live blood cell analysis with Sabine. But make sure that it's what you check is what you know, and this is not something you guess at. I know for myself, I need more than the average person because really I'm inside a lot, and I don't have even windows. So and so it's definitely important to be evaluating your levels on a regular basis. At the beginning, biannually, and then eventually annually would be what the majority of people need.
Absolutely. I really, really do recommend checking your vitamin D levels because, every most patients that have checked, there are always either borderline low or they're low. So you might need actually stronger doses than what's like the daily recommended dose. So it's really important to get it checked, like Justine said. And also add, like, because I have a darker skin tone, it's harder for me to get vitamin D from the sun, and I need more supplementation. So I always make sure, especially in the winter time, I have my own vitamin D as well, and I make sure I get that in. And especially because we're not going out as much, it is such an important vitamin to have right now. And I'll just even add that vitamin D, adequate levels of vitamin D did show that you're more likely to have less severe symptoms of COVID if you had enough levels of vitamin D. So it's such an important immune stimulating vitamin to have. And speaking of that, we also have vitamin C as well. So in my cupboard, I have vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, B vitamins, and oregano oil. That's like my go-to for whenever I feel like something's coming on. And vitamin C is so important for boosting immune function. And I'm sure maybe some of scurvy. That was, back in the day, the sailors would develop scurvy if they didn't eat enough oranges, for example. And that was because oranges had vitamin C that was helping their immune system fight off this illness. So this is a great, great vitamin to boost your immune system. And like Dr. Justine mentioned, a lot of supplements have it, but might not necessarily be the right amount, might not be the right quality. So it's important to make sure you're getting best of both worlds. So you can come speak to myself or Sabine, just to see you're getting the right quality and the right amount of vitamin C. Or you can supplement it in your diet. So increasing your fruits, the citrus fruits, papaya, kiwi, these are all great sources of vitamin C to have as well. And speaking of another great immune boosting vitamin or mineral is zinc. So zinc is just really actually good for skin as well, and it boosts your immune system. A really great source of zinc is the meat. So getting some of that red meat, some eggs, pumpkin seeds, like your avocados and seeds, nuts and seeds are a great source of zinc to have. And and so there's different kinds of zinc. So different zincs affect your body differently. So they're not as absorbable as other ones. So this is where you want to come and talk to myself or Sabine, for example, to see which supplement product that you're taking is good for you and how much of it do you need. So in my cupboard, I have a zinc. I actually usually take it like a month or two in advance just to have my body ready for the flu season. That way, I know I'm good to go, and that I'm supported, and that my immune system is boosted as well. So, and of course, the elderberry and echinacea. So I'm sure so echinacea is a great antiviral herb. It is actually just great for boosting your immune system in general, and same with elderberry as well. So this is great for sore throats or any kind of like if you need something for your respiratory system. It's a fantastic herbs to have as well. And this is where we don't want to recommend anything for you before you have a consultation, because you also don't want to be interacting too many things at once, because even though these are herbs and these are natural, that doesn't necessarily mean they don't have interactions with some, if you're especially taking drugs or other medications. So please come talk to one of us, so that way you're safe and we can give you the best advice on if it's needed or if it's not needed.
And definitely one of the greatest things of working as a team with Dr. Udani and Sabine, our whole team, is because you have to have the good gas. You have to have the good fuels for your body to function well. And the nervous system is going to control everything. So it controls your healing, it controls your function, but it needs a support system, and that's the good fuels, the good vitamins, the good minerals in our bodies. And so, what we want to do is make sure you have that nervous system evaluated to look for subluxations. And that's why we do x rays, we do thermography, we do posture range of motion testing. And we want to check this before you hurt. All right. This isn't something that I wait till I have back pain or I wait till I have headaches. That's actually when it's late. We want to be able to check children. We want to check when you're feeling great to stay great. You don't take a vitamin because you're sick. You take vitamins to stop getting sick. So the whole goal is you don't want to exercise because you're already overweight. You want to start exercising to stay in great shape, to have the energy you want into your 80s and 90s. I just talked to my grandmother, and she was talking about how she still, at 96 years old, is making sure she gets exercise every single day. So we need all five essentials, maximizing our mind, maximizing our nervous system, our nutrition, and minimizing those toxins. And those toxins are everywhere in our body. They can create a huge burden, whether it's in our hair products, our skin products. Um, it's actually one of the parts that can lead to so much disease, and because of these environment areas of what we breathe in, what we sit on, what we sleep on, from detergents to chemicals for fire retardants. So we've had numerous talks on toxicity that I recommend that you look at, especially looking at things that, for example, how you cook and the making sure you get away from aluminum, and not putting things that are toxic uh, into our foods. For example, making sure plastic does not get in the dishwasher so it doesn't end up on all your other dishes, that toxicity. So, some of this is just a simple way of washing it by hand, and that's okay if it's plastic or wood, in order to be healthier, and looking at some of the pots and pans that we use so that we are using healthier ways of cooking and the healthier oils when we cook. Some of the hygiene, I know right now it's hand sanitizer everywhere. I mean, and I don't know about you, but your hands get so dry. So, looking, if you're going shopping, bring your own, bring a healthier one on your own. So you're not looking at constant hand sanitizer on the way in, on the way out. Um, in order to be healthier, try and use just real soap, right? Not antibacterial soap, because you need the good bacteria on your hands. That's part of the defense system that Dr. Udani was talking about immediately. Avoiding things with like candles with all sorts of fragrances and colors. Many of these perfumes, they are not regulated and they have tons of toxins. I know for me, makes me sneeze all over. I tell people, Don't wear any of these fancy perfumes for me, please," because my body knows it's toxic and tries to make sure that it doesn't get into my system. So just being aware what you clean your hands, clean your dishes with, clean your clothes with, how you clean your home. For us, we use vinegar, we use natural products. I'll tell you, at the office, we're not allowed, according to public health. We used to use all natural products. At this current time, we can't, but I do try to make sure I chose one that has the least smell, because I am allergic to things like Lysol or Clorox and some of the heavy duty bleaches, CLR. So those things will make me sick because they are toxic. So we chose the preempt. So it sort of has a less smell, so you're not breathing in those toxins as much. So some of the other challenges comes with food additives. There's so many food additives, and this is can cause these food intolerances and can make cause the bloating, can cause the gas. And then you don't feel it when you have a little bit, but when it adds up over time, that's what can lower your immune system. So there's a list of some of these food additives that can be really hidden in a lot of packaged foods. So again, the best thing is something that's not in a package, and then you will avoid the majority of these food additives. Some of the ways to reduce toxins: go organic, especially if it doesn't have a thick peel. Going grass fed, free range, organic, wild fish. Looking towards things not in a box, not in a can. Um, eliminating plastics, trying not to put any hot foods in plastics, not reusing water bottles, the disposable water bottles. Make sure that you're using your own water bottle on a regular basis, avoiding excessive drinking and smoking. Some of the ways to detox, I mean, definitely you breathe out, you cough out, you sweat. All of these things are great, but to do a detox, really you need advice. And I recommend that we all do detoxes minimally once a year, but preferably when the seasons change and you get coaching along the way with your naturopath, like Dr. Udani, in order to make sure you do it in a safe way. Uh, because that's what's going to take care of how the different organs work. You think about your kidneys, your bowels, your lungs, they're detoxing all the time, but they do get overworked just because there's so much out there. And to support that system will help your immune system overall. So, some of the natural detoxes out there is getting glutathione. So, I have glutathione in my fridge right now. So, you can use a nebulizer to breathe it in, but I recommend that you get advice on how much, what's good for you, how often, because you don't want to overdo something, even if it's a good thing for you. You don't want to overdo it. So finding out the amounts, the quite the different types of glutathione. I do vitamin C IV and glutathione once a year with naturopath as preventative to help my immune system. My mother, after having cancer, does it more often. For most people, they don't need it through IV. So finding out the right way to do a detox. Sometimes doing a colonoscopy, doing the colon cleanse is super important again to get the bad bacteria out, the good bacteria taking over. And that does require some help. Some of the best ways for detox, though, is drink water, lots and lots of water. And I know I find it extremely difficult to drink as much water as I did before with these masks and shield and everything on. So I have to definitely be more consciously aware to take those breaks to drink water.
Mhm.
And very important to get sweating. Sweating
Yes.
is the way to detox, and actively looking at ways to sweat on a daily basis. And that's not something that many people, they think of smelling versus glowing. So every time you think of sweating, think you're glowing and you're getting those toxins out.
Amazing. Yes. Yeah. So this is where you want to build your immunity and your detox. And, there's many ways we can do this. And this is why we need to figure out a individualized plan for you, because we got to first see like where is your levels of toxicity is at, that way we can support you the right way to build up your detoxification. So supporting those organs that Dr. Justine mentioned, your livers, your kidney, your bowels, and how you can boost your immune system through the detoxing as well. Yes. So
Definitely, we talked about this is sweating, and so that talks about that oxygen, that exercise. In many of our videos, we talked about breathing exercises. So, um, just the 10 in, the 10 out. Every day, just 1 or 2 minutes of the breathing exercise. Open up your chest, working towards a 15 seconds in, 15 seconds out to support your nervous system, to support your immune system, getting all sorts of different ways to exercise. Definitely, hit exercise, high intensity interval exercises, whether it's done standing or sitting, mixed with different types of cardio or weights. We can't just do one thing all the time. Like, you can't just walk or you can't just run. Do need to mix it up, create that muscle confusion. And that's why it's maximize living online. There's so much out there, on YouTube. There's so much out there, but create a plan and then execute the plan. If you think we're just going to do it when we feel like it, or when we have that extra bit of energy at the end of the day, likely it's not going to happen. A month later, you're going to say, oh, yeah, I exercised 8 times. When the majority of the people, we should be exercising, even if you do the high intensity interval exercises, you should be looking at daily, 6 days a week, approximately a half an hour to maintain. And if you want to improve, it's more than that. So we really want to evaluate, create a plan, and then execute the plan. And if you need help with that, I'd be happy to help you. We look at it, not enough of us are exercising, and we are the role models for our kids. So then unfortunately, not enough kids are exercising and getting the activity that they need, and they opt enough time to sweat and move. So too much screen time. We want to change that up again now that the kids are back in school. We need more movement, more sweating for our kids in order for them to be as healthy as well. So when we put it all together, we need to deal with the good food, the good nutrition, the good team in order to get ourselves motivated in order to get the best response. And definitely, when we think about health, the number one thing is our health, right? Like nothing else is more important, and all these different stresses can affect us. So when we think about those stresses, we need to be able to say, look at our health and say, hey, that's the number one thing. There's nothing more important. So what am I doing? What is my plan for me to be my best? And not to judge our health based on how we feel. A lot of times we get to the point where we think of being tired in the morning is normal. I
Mm.
wake up and I'm excited to go. I wake up before my alarm clock.
Mhm.
If you're not waking up before your alarm clock, why? You know? And so where is the energy supposed to come from? If we're not energized and we're feeling like we need that coffee, then we already have a problem. We don't need to wait till we hurt. We don't need to wait till where you have um a headache. We don't need to wait till we have indigestion. We don't need to wait till we're sick. This is like if you think of the fine-tuned car, what would you do to maintain that car? Well, how many oil loops? How often would you wash it? The same thing here. How often would you drive it? Or would you just look at it in your garage, under a cover? No, you'd get that car moving. You'd get that car good gas, and you would make sure that it had an oil and lube. And that's the same thing for our health to be its best. We need to get to the cause of the disease versus just looking at the surface, the reaction to the problem. And our goal with health here to be the healthiest possible is to look at the causes, look at true health, and work on prevention, being proactive. So when we look at all health and healing comes from that brain and nervous system and that good gas, taking care of the five essentials. And if your nervous system is not functioning well, you often you'll have no symptom, but if you do, you'll get things like headaches, back pain, indigestion, fatigue levels, depression, um, problems with focus, food intolerances. Your body will give you a list of symptoms that will give you those warning signs, even things like blood pressure, obesity, numbness and tingling in your hands or your feet. These are all areas that Dr. Udani and I will work with. And if you're getting these warning signs, that's boom, boom, boom. Their body's saying, like, help me now. And so the goal is, of course, before, but if you get to that point, please see us right away and we'd be happy to help. What we say is the body needs no help, it needs no interference. And what we mean by that is we want the brain to be able to send messages. And if you think of your body like a highway, we don't want any traffic jams in that highway, no more traffic, making sure that there's free flowing energy from your brain to the rest of your body by removal of subluxations, by getting the body moving, and by having the right gas in the tank. We know that if your posture's out of line, you're crooked, you're hunched, you're on a computer a lot, you're on your phone a lot, all of that affects the function of the body and how we can manage our stressors that are happening in our body. And our goal is to find, locate, and remove those subluxations from our bodies, from our minds, and from our areas of poor nutrition. So when we look at chiropractic care, the research shows that, doing a 5-year study, they've shown that when those under regular chiropractic care, not just for pain, not just for injuries, it improves their immune system. So we do look at the curve in your neck, and you will see the C curve. All right, that C curve is the most important. That's the arc of life. That's how your brain stem functions. And if you see the head forward, like you see the X-ray on the side, the one in red, you know that it's damaging the nervous system, damaging our body's ability to deal with disease. So some of the action steps when we look at the today is getting complimentary consultations, examinations, focusing on those 5 essentials, looking at time when we talked about dealing with stress, time of gratitude.
Mhm.
Even during COVID, there's so much to be grateful for. I know my 2 kids, they had to get along. They didn't see friends for a while, so they became good friends, not just sister and brother. We look at how much now as we're getting back together to really appreciate our family and our friends, and let's go into the Christmas season
Mhm.
thinking about how great our family and friends are rather than what's for dinner. What are we eating? Maybe our meetings are out for a hike together. Maybe our meetings are going apple picking or going out to observe nature. Maybe it's playing with the dog and throwing a ball, throwing a football. Look at different ways to enjoy each other with movement rather than thinking about what's for dessert. You
Mhm.
know, let's go into this Christmas season with the mindset of my health is number 1 and the mindset of what I'm grateful for. So as you get together, friends, talk about what you're grateful for. Talk about what has been good rather than the negative news.
Mhm.
And think about, can I limit the negativity in my life? What do we need to say goodbye to, say no to? Um, maybe we don't have to compromise all the time and we need to set barriers, to put that phone away, to put that, tweets away or whatever forms of way that you get the negative news and limit it. Because really, you can wait. You will find out. Somebody will tell you. You don't need to be the first to know of whatever negative news is coming up. The next fire, the next war, the next, you know, natural disaster, whatever it is, a storm, we need a hurricane. Let's talk about what is good in our lives and how we can be able to help each other to be our best.
Mhm. I just want to add to that actually that why wait until New Year's to have New Year resolutions? You can start now. You can be proactive, even during this holiday season, to maybe adapt, maybe even one or two of the habits we talked about. That way, you have a head start and you feel more motivated to kind of have a healthier holiday season, and then go into New Year like feeling more amazing, feel with more energy, better mindset. So that's why we're here. We're here to support you with that too, and to kind of motivate you to start as early as you can.
And definitely, I get made fun of because I like the Christmas movies, and my family thinks I'm nuts because 'cause they're too mushy and they're not real actors. I don't know. I love the happy romance kiss at the end and all the happiness. That helps fill my tank. Find out what fills your tank. For the boys in my family, they love comedy, so fill up with comedy. Use if you're going to use social media, you're going to do movies, you're going to do Netflix, use it in a way that builds your tank, makes you feel good, in order to handle the stresses of everyday life. So looking towards, um, you know, and being able to share those different movies or thoughts or prayers with others. So to give back to you, you can see all the ways we can connect with you. We love you, we appreciate you, and we look forward to being with you soon. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you so
Udani.
much. Thank you so much, Dr. Justine. Have a lovely evening, everybody.
Take care.
Take care.